We want to take you now to the White House, where moments ago, President Trump spoke about the economic uncertainty caused by a growing trade war with Canada. Let's listen.
Uncertainty about work ahead.
Well, I think they're going to do great. I think our country had to do this. We had to go and do this. They've taken away, other countries have taken away our business. They've taken away our jobs. I did it initially very strongly against, as you know, China and some others in the first term. And it was a very successful term. We had no inflation. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. And then we had COVID, which we had to straighten out. So I didn't want to be doing anything with respect to other countries at that time. And we did a great job with it. We handed the stock market over. It was higher than it ever was. And think of that, higher than it ever was to that point before. And nobody thought that was even possible. We did a great job. But we had the greatest economy in history. This economy, in my opinion, is going to blow it away. But what I have to do is I have to get the workers back. I have to get the factories open. We have 90,000 factories and plants are closed from what you had just prior to NAFTA, which is not very long ago. 90,000, think of it, 90,000 factories and plants are closed from what it was. And it's just not right. So, and we gave it away. Presidents before me gave it away, and I could name every one of them. But they gave it away, and we're taking it back. We're taking our jobs back. And one of the things I'll say, by the way, speaking of Tesla, he manufactures more cars. I mean, he opened this incredible plant, one of the largest plants in the world, in Texas. Could you talk about that, Ella?
Yeah, it's worth noting that the Tesla cars have the most U.S. content of any cars on the market, so they're the most American made. We have the biggest factory.
CBS News White House reporter Olivia Rinaldi is with us from our Washington bureau. Olivia, there's been a lot of back and forth today, prior to today, regarding tariffs in the U.S., particularly U.S. and Canada. Catch us up to speed.
Yeah, it's good to be with you again. We just heard from the president there where he said he's considering cutting back on the 50% tariffs he announced earlier today that would be on Canadian exports as far as electricity. So let's back up a little bit here and just walk you through all of this. We heard from Ontario's premier, which is essentially their governor, Ford. He had said that there's going to be a 25% tariff on electricity going to 3 U.S. states. That would be New York, Michigan, and Minnesota. As a result, Trump then said starting tomorrow, March 12th, there would be an increase in tariffs from 25% to 50% on Canadian steel and aluminum that come into the U.S. It's important to note Canada is a huge supplier of steel in the U.S., so this would certainly ratchet up this trade war a little bit. Trump was asked about this a short while ago, and he said he's considering cutting back on that 50% tariff that he actually announced. He said he's looking at it, and he could make a different decision. Also notable, we had heard from Premier Ford and Secretary Lutnick about an hour ago where they said, announcing this deal essentially between the two leaders regarding tariffs, that because there would be a meeting in D.C. between Ford and Lutnick, that Ford said Ontario would not put this 25% tariff on electricity. Of that meeting, Trump said, Ford, rather, he called him a strong man in Canada. He called Trump and said he's not going to do that regarding the electricity. And Trump said he respects that. So clearly some conversation between the two leaders today, specifically on this issue of tariffs and the tit for tat we've heard there. But ultimately, Trump says in the latest decision on this back and forth and tit for tat that there will not be, or he's reconsidering rather, this tariff he planned to put on tomorrow on steel and aluminum imports.
So obviously, the president watches the market. We've been watching the markets. Things did not close well yesterday. All 3 markets down slightly today, so there was a bit of a rebound. But what is the administration saying about the markets and the economy, really as a result of investor reaction to these policies?
Yeah, the White House is saying there's a divergence between essentially what they're seeing on the short term with these animal spirit markets is what they're calling them, the bear and bull market related to market rallies, market sell-offs. They said there's a divergence between that and what they actually hear from business leaders. And they say business leaders tell them they're excited to be investing in America and investing back in the U.S. because of Trump's pro-business policies, his impending tax cuts that they're hoping Congress will agree to and enact when they eventually take up that bill, perhaps later in the spring, early summer. And because of that, the White House is predicting that even though Q1, we're going to see some economic blips, some data related to inflation and high prices that are certainly going to make consumers feel wary. Come Q2, they're hoping there will be an economic boom based off of Trump's tax cuts and pro-business policy. It's important to note, though, this isn't the last time we're going to hear from Trump today. He's going to head over to a business roundtable with the business leaders, top 100 business leaders in the country, and talk to them about his economic plans and tariffs and the ongoing economic stress that we've been seeing across the country. These are people, though, who lost a ton of money yesterday, a little bit today. It seems like all the markets closed down, even though they just closed. And so this is going to be an interesting conversation that he's going to have, where he's going to have to kind of walk this fine line with the Business Roundtable and these leaders who are against this tariff plan and but are pro his tax cuts and pro business. We know a lot of these leaders supported him during the re-election campaign of 2024. So this will be a very interesting conversation he's going to have in a short little bit. Obviously, with the markets hanging over, it does make his tariff plan a little bit more difficult, and people are a little bit more wary of it. So we'll be interested to see what he says.
Olivia Rinaldi, thank you so much. CBS News Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady joins me now in Studio 57. So I want to pick up on what Olivia was talking about, but in a second, because we obviously were talking 24 hours ago about the swings that the market was undergoing. What position are we in today at close as opposed to yesterday?
So we are in a worse position than yesterday, but not that much worse. OK, so the Dow closed down over 1%, right? We were down 478. And I actually love that the control team put up this chart because I want you to see how much it fluctuated during the day. Wow. At one point, we were down over 700. At one point, it looked like, well, maybe we might actually go positive. And the NASDAQ and the S&P both were down slightly. The NASDAQ was actually positive at one point. And so from a numbers perspective, when you look at the markets, we are worse than we were yesterday. From a tariff perspective, we are kind of in the same spot. We still expect tariffs to the tune of 25% on aluminum and steel across the board, doesn't matter where they're from, to go into effect tomorrow. We might see a 50% tariff on aluminum and steel from Canada. Does look like maybe the president is considering not that to that extent. But I think overall, investors, I mean, you saw just how much things fluctuated today. It is whiplash. We could have had 5 different conversations about where the market was, depending on where we would have spoken today. And so I think investors are looking at this situation going into tomorrow, an inflation read. And that's why you saw that pullback right at the end of the day, because it kind of felt like we got a little bit of a reprieve with the energy export tax being lifted or paused, at least for the moment. Maybe those 50% tariffs not going into place. You would have expected to see the Dow rebound very, very sharply. I think the fact that we saw the pullback as investors were like, you know what, we got an inflation read coming out tomorrow. I'm going to sell and then we'll wait.
So Olivia was talking about the Business Roundtable, a lot of interesting conversations happening at that table with people losing a lot of money. I mean, everyday people also are losing money. It's not just business people. People might be checking their 401ks, their IRAs and thinking, man, I'm thousands of dollars, less. I have thousands of dollars less than I did before. I mean, what are, the president says short-term loss, long-term gain. I mean, how are Wall Street and Main Street taking those messages?
So when he says short-term loss, long-term gain, I mean, look, he is not wrong. If we were able to bring lots of manufacturing here, have a supply chain that is much more centered in the United States. You saw how we struggled with COVID being so reliant on China. Those are good things. More American jobs are good things, but that takes so much time. And in the meantime, as you said, you have people looking at their 401ks. How I would put this into perspective is, unless you're looking to retire tomorrow, you sort of wait and you see, because we know markets will fluctuate. And I do want to put this into context. You go back to 2008, okay? Pull up the chart of the Dow then. It was so much more of a sell-off. We are certainly not in that place right now. The data says that we are not going into a recession yet. So I think just take a breath. And I think more for businesses, though, they have to make immediate decisions right now. You know, do you invest? Do you not invest? Do you hire more people? Do you lay off people?
Do you buy for the next 6 months out?
That's what's really, really debilitating. And I hate to use this term, but you kind of get into this paralysis. How do you move when things are changing by the hour?
What is the Fed doing with all this information?
Oh, I can't wait to hear Chair Jerome Powell speak next week. So we are getting an interest rate decision next Wednesday. We are expecting them to hold interest rate steady. We're actually expecting them to hold interest rate steady until roughly the summer, maybe more. The Fed is faced with two very big issues. You have inflation, which has been getting further and further away from 2%. And if we have tariffs that go into place and increase the prices of things, that is going to make inflation worse, likely. But what they're also looking at is a pullback in consumer spending, a labor market which has been slowing but not going off a cliff. And so you have them sort of balancing these two different pieces. I'm very interested to hear him say, I mean, are they in a wait and see mode? Because there's sort of, you could have spending pull back so much that they need to think about restarting growth in this country, sort of a couple months down the line, but you could also have inflation increase. And that is a term that we will likely hear over the next few weeks called stagflation. I think that's what they're looking for.
So obviously the tariff news is not over. You had mentioned something that we're waiting for tomorrow. Do you think that the markets are going to react accordingly as well? I mean, are you sort of buckling in for sort of a turbulent week?
I am buckling in for a turbulent week. I'm buckling in for a turbulent month because remember, we also have April 2nd coming, which is another round of reciprocal tariffs. And the president has really teed that up as the big tariff plan. And so you could see a lot more pain then. I also look at what we like to call the fear index. Not an amazing name. It's called the VIX. And it's basically measures and predicts how much market turbulence you're going to have over the next month. It's pretty high. So that could mean swings positively. But yeah, I think we're in for a bumpy road right now.
Kelly O'Grady, thank you.